Hey guys, thanks for joining me. And if you like what you see, please subscribe.
Hello, peoples. Welcome to Sharp Ends. Today I'm going to tell you a story about hypothermia while I clean this knife. I just went camping with this, and this was in my life vest for the whole trip. This is the Monterey Bay Knives Sea Otter Magna Cut, and I thought I would try it out as a knife on my life vest. Ironically, the action almost feels better now that it's been submerged for 2 days straight. So my friend and I were canoeing down the Pennsylvania Grand Canyon. Uh, and this is it's March 22nd, I can't remember, 23rd, 24th. Um, but so really cold still outside, and the weather for the day was sunny but 50. And then as soon as the sun went beyond the rim of the canyon, it got down to 30 pretty fast, and overnight it froze. That first day, as we were going down, we set off from the outfitter, and we were doing pretty good. We'd gone about, I don't know, I want to say 4 or 5 miles maybe, when we finally came around the bend. And there we were loaded down for bear, as it were, and we had all our stuff in dry bags. We were wearing life preservers. And I should also say that as I continue this story and I take apart this knife, I am not a medical expert. So I'm just going to tell you what happened and what we did to fix the situation and turn a bad situation into a happy resolution. But I am not a medical expert. Don't trust this jackass on YouTube. So we were going down, and we eventually got to a place that it was like the watermark on the river was about just over 2 feet. I'm curious to see if this finish got any kind of patina or rust on it. I don't see any, which is good. The oil has become black. It was very much watery. The pin just dropped out. But that's okay. We're going to clean this up, make it like new again. You should always do this after you go canoeing or something like that. So anyway, it wasn't very high, and usually if you're used to canoeing, you know that like when you go around a turn or you get to a flat spot, there's usually one spot in the course of the waterway which is deeper. Like on the outside of the turn, there'll usually be a deeper part than the inside where it shoals out to the shore where it's eroded into the bank. This wasn't happening on this creek, Pine Creek, as it were. This was basically just kind of shallow rock, 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 rock. Now there was a way to sail through it, but me and my friend were loaded down with gear. Where both of us, weigh 200 pounds each, and then we had 100 pounds of gear as well, and we were in a canoe. Eventually, we did pretty well for a long time, but then we ended up getting to a place where we ended up getting caught sideways on a rock, and then the gunnel went upstream and kind of leaned down because we were riding up onto the rock, which forced water straight into the canoe. So the boat got flooded. But we weren't totally wet at that point yet. But when that happened, we had strapped down all our gear except for one dry bag, and my friend had his paddle. And I said to him, "Watch out! Keep a hand on that paddle." And he got both hands on the boat, and he put the paddle in the boat. But the boat was flooded at this point, and so the paddle ended up floating away, along with one of his dry bags. And we were very sad about that. We finally got the boat off to the side, and he said, "You know what? I'm right over here. It looks a little bit more shallow. I'm going to wade across right here and go get my bag, and you go ahead and shoot the rest of these rapids by yourself," which we had gone by the hard part, "and go over to the side, and I'll meet you over there." So I do that. While I do that, I end up getting some more water in the boat, and the shallow part that he thought he was going over turned out to be neck deep. So he submerged his core, and his core organs, his trunk of his body, right? When you go into 40, 50 degree wet water like that, even if you are wearing the right gear, and he was wearing, very warm clothes, water shoes, water socks, chest fully covered, wearing a life vest, all that good stuff, you still get a shock. He got out and he thought he was going to be fine, and as he started walking to me, he started slowing down. I could actually see him physically slowing down. We got the boat out. Luckily, there was a cabin there with a fire pit. No one was there yet because we were not quite in season. And We ask him, should we build a fire? I already knew we should build a fire, and I should have just started building one immediately. He was like, I don't know. We gave him dry clothes, toweled him off. I had a space blanket in my life preserver. He wrapped that around himself. And he started to get warm. And then, even though he started to feel warm, and he was in the sun too, he started to get. We were like, should we make a fire? And finally, we're like, let's just go ahead and make the fire. So we start making the fire, and right when we start making the fire, he gets uncontrollable shakes. And this is your body's response to its core temperature dropping so much. So his core temperature starts dropping, and he starts shivering. And we build up a fire, and he is next to the fire getting warmed up. At this point, it's 4 o'clock, and the sun will be behind the wall of the canyon by 5, and the sun goes down at 6. And we haven't gotten to the campsite yet. In retrospect, we should have just stayed at that cabin that was a bit like not open yet. And just, if someone showed up, apologize, explain the situation, and 9 times out of 10, anyone would totally understand. And if we were respectful, we didn't steal their wood, and we cleaned up after ourselves, they probably wouldn't even know we were there if they didn't come by, right? We didn't do that. Once he was warmed up enough, we decided to push on because we thought the campsite was right around the corner. We went a little bit farther, and then we took a second spill. I stayed with the boat, and he kind of stepped up off onto shore once the boat started to flood. And I said, you stay there and keep your core warm, because I didn't want him to go into get another shock. And he did that, which is great. And can't forget the pin here. So there was no rust or patina on this, so this Magna Cut and this titanium seems perfectly fine. This is CPM Crucible Magna Cut, I believe. Really good stuff. This is all American made knife. We went around the corner, took another tumble. I had the boat, and at this point, I was like dealing with a full boat of water and all of our gear tied down, but all of our gear. And I had to then move the boat over by myself to the side. And I was able to keep most of my core warm while I did that, but I was also getting pretty exhausted at that point. We got around to a different cabin, and we pulled off, and we went ahead and tried to. We decided to go ahead and even though there was another cabin with a fire pit, we were like, this isn't our property; it's private property, but we're just going to go ahead and have to camp here because we don't know how much farther we have to go, and it's getting late. The sun's about to go down, and we can't take another spill like that. So we ended up staying there, and the neighbor came out, and at first he was very protective of his neighbor's land, which rightly so. We kind of explained the situation to him, and then he became very friendly, ended up helping us out a lot. I started to get the shakes at this point once we got our gear on shore, because I'd stayed with the boat, and it was just, I was also probably exhausted, and I had an adrenaline rush and all that kind of stuff, right? So a mixed reaction. I tried to get myself warm. At that point, I realized that even though my dry bags are dry bags, dry bags are only as good, they kind of have a limit, and dry bags are only so good, as it were, and you have to be careful with them. At this point, I realized that my sleeping bag, my 0-degree sleeping bag, was wet. There was no way that I was going to be able to sleep that night with under 30-degree weather with a wet sleeping bag and stay warm. And I was shivering. And so I went ahead, got out of my tent, and I said, I'm calling it. We've got to get out of here. So we were with 3 friends. 2 of my friends, me and my friend were in one boat, and then another guy was in a different boat. And his gear had stayed dry, and he had done all right. So we went ahead and we asked the next door neighbor guy, Al. If you're watching this, Al, say hi. Guy we just met offered to give us a ride. So we went out of the park. We were on a old rail trail, basically, that goes down through the canyon. And but there's a key at the top of the trail to a gate, but he could get us out. So we ended up being able to get out. We left our other friend with all the gear. And eventually, the next day we came back and we talked to the rangers, and they gave us a key to the gate. Thank you, Ranger Ben. You're the nicest man ever. I can't believe you just gave us basically 2 strangers a key to the park to let us get our gear and get out of there. But I really appreciate it. And, everything ends well, right? So, what are the lessons of this? The lessons are if you're going to be going in cold water or any, in the summer, you can get hypothermia too. A piece of gear that you always need to have on you is going to be a blanket, a space blanket. You need to have fire making materials with you. You need to be wearing your life jacket. You need to be wearing the right kind of clothes for the situation. And if someone does get their core wet, you need to immediately recognize that you need to go ahead and start making a fire because they're not going to be thinking clearly and you just need to get them warmed up. The worst thing that happens is you make a fire and you didn't need it. Or the worst thing that happens is that you don't make that fire and they die of hypothermia, which is a very bad outcome. And people die every year on that creek and other creeks around the country because they just do not heed the early warning signs of hypothermia. So, that's my story. I hope you liked it. How is this guy doing? So this went through it really well. I used it several times on the camping trip. Still very sharp. I haven't sharpened it on my KME yet, but yeah. So, just be prepared, know what you're doing, wear your life vest, bring fire materials, dress warmly, and get better dry bags, or understand that dry bags can only do so much once you take a spill. They might survive a little bit of a dunking here or there, but stuff could get in there. So things that are really important, one of the lessons I learned is that things like your sleeping bag, you need to double dry bag that. You need to be really careful with that kind of stuff. Your dry clothes, you need to make sure you have dry clothes that you can change someone into if someone takes a spill. And like I said, if the water you can even get hypothermia if you're in 70-degree water, let alone 40. If you're in there long enough, if you're in there for 5 minutes, you're going to get hypothermia. Now, he was only in the water for, I don't know, a minute, 60 seconds, but it was 40-degree wet water. So, it doesn't take much. And the first sign is you start you start slowing down and you start having trouble moving around. He threw up because of the adrenaline rush he had, I think. But he was throwing up there for a minute, and then he started feeling better and warm. But then the shakes started because your core is drawing all your blood in, and it's shaking your muscles uncontrollably in order to make more heat, right? So this spring season, if you're going camping, just pay attention. Make sure you look out for your brothers and sisters out there. Take care of everyone and be nice to those in need. If you see someone have an accident on the side, go ahead and try to help them. You will only regret not helping them. You'll never regret having been a helper and a good person in need. So that's my message for you guys today. If you like this content, please like and subscribe and leave a comment. Let me know if you guys have a story like this about hypothermia or a camping situation that went sideways and how you rescued yourself. I'd love to hear your stories. If you want to win a knife a month, all you got to do is click the support button down below for YouTube or become a Patreon member. Thanks so much, guys, and I'll see you next time on Sharp Ends. Bye-bye now.